Hello, I'm doing a book review, and the book I want to review is The Amityville Horror by Jay Anson. Now, The Amityville Horror is based on a real house in Amityville, New York, which has now been called the Amityville Horror House, and the house is supposedly haunted. Now, before I talk about this book, I should probably talk about the events which led to this book being written. Now, Amityville is a town on Long Island, New York, and back in 1974, a young man named Ronald DeFeo actually murdered his entire family in that house, and he later claimed that demons made him do it. And the year after that, in late 1975, a family called the Lutzes moved into the house and moved out after 28 days, and they claimed that the house was haunted. So this book is essentially written about the supernatural experiences that the Lutzes supposedly had in the house. Now, this book is actually kind of close to home for me because I actually used to live in Amityville, and I've seen the actual house that this book is based on, and I know people who still live not too far from the actual house, and if you've grown up on Long Island, chances are you know of the Amityville Horror House. Like, it's become almost like kind of a landmark here on Long Island, at least. Now, I'm gonna say right off the bat that I personally don't believe the house was actually haunted. Now, when it comes to me and the paranormal, I'm kind of a skeptic on it because, like, I don't doubt the existence of things like ghosts and demons, but at the same time, in my opinion, there's really no proof one way or the other whether things like that actually exist. So, while I don't doubt the existence of things like that, when I hear a story about somebody claiming that their house was haunted, I kind of take it with a grain of salt, and I actually have friends who've claimed to have had supernatural experiences, but I've never had any experiences like that, so once again, I'm very much a skeptic when it comes to the paranormal, but I personally don't believe that the house in Amityville was actually haunted. Now, in my opinion, you don't have to actually believe this to be a true story in order to enjoy the book, but if you do actually believe that this is a true story, then I guess you'll find the book to be even scarier, I guess. But I'm not judging this book as a true story, I'm judging this book as a novel. So the plot of the book is it chronicles the 28 days that the Lutzes spent in the house, and in the beginning of the book, when they move in, they already realize that a year earlier Ronald DeFeo murdered his whole family in the house, but they move into the house and start having strange supernatural experiences, and it turns out that their house is haunted by some kind of demonic entity, and in the book there's a priest who's a friend of the family who is trying to help them, but every time he tries to help them, he gets severely sick, and you start to think that maybe it's the demon trying to keep him away from the house, and really that's the basic plot line of the Amityville Horror. Now, I thought the Amityville Horror was a very enjoyable book, and this is coming from somebody who doesn't actually believe that the house was haunted, but as a horror story, I think it's very effective, because there are parts of this book which are downright creepy. Like, there's a scene in this book where George Lutz, the father in the family, is checking out the boathouse right by the house, and when he's walking back, he sees his daughter staring at him through her bedroom window, and right behind her is what appears to be the face of a giant pig. And when I read that, I just shit my pants. Okay, I didn't literally shit my pants, but it was a very creepy scene, and the book has a lot of really creepy scenes in it. So as a horror story, I can definitely recommend it. Even though I personally don't believe it's a true story, just as a story in general, as a horror story, I really enjoyed it. Now, the book is written in kind of a almost journalistic writing style, which kind of adds to the whole idea of it being quote-unquote real. But I definitely recommend the Amityville Horror. Once again, even if you don't actually believe the story, it's still a really good horror novel and a really good haunted house story, so I would definitely recommend it. Now, this book was published in 1977. Now, the author of the book, Jay Anson, unfortunately died in 1980, but there were actually sequels written to this novel, but the sequels were written by other authors, specifically an author named John G. Jones. Now, while this book was promoted as being a true story, all the sequel novels that were written to this, I believe, are all fictitious. Like, after this, you had the Amityville Horror Part 2, then that was followed by a book called Amityville: The Final Chapter. That was followed by Amityville: The Evil Escapes. The Evil Escapes was followed by Amityville: The Horror Returns. And the final Amityville sequel novel was Amityville: The Nightmare Continues. Now, most of the sequel novels were written by an author named John G. Jones, but the final Amityville sequel novel was written by an author named Robin Carl. There was also a book called Murder in Amityville, which was about the DeFeo murders. There was also a book called High Hopes: The Amityville Murders, which was also about the DeFeo murders. And I'm sure there are many other books written about the house that I'm probably forgetting about. Now, this book was also made into a movie in 1979, and the movie went on to become a cult classic and spawned a fuckload of sequels, and they really did kind of get a little overboard with the sequels. Like, after the Amityville Horror, you had Amityville 2, The Possession, which is probably my favorite Amityville movie. I actually find that movie to be a lot of fun. Then you had Amityville 3D, which I gotta admit is a pretty bad movie. Then you had Amityville 4, The Evil Escapes, and The Amityville Curse, and Amityville 1992, It's About Time, Amityville: The New Generation, Amityville Dollhouse, and then in 2005 you had a remake of the original Amityville Horror, and then there was the Amityville Haunting, and then there was the Amityville Asylum, and now they're coming out with another Amityville movie called Amityville, which is supposed to come out in 2015. And just last year, you had a documentary called My Amityville Horror, which featured interviews with Daniel Lutz, who was one of the children who lived in the house when all these supernatural events supposedly happened. But yeah, that's my review on the Amityville Horror by Jay Anson, and bye.